Hi everybody, I hope you're all doing really well. Back today to do another little bookish chat. I actually haven't done one of these videos in a while, but it's basically just a casual video, me sitting down, talking about my reading for the past week and just generally what I've been up to. I think it's nice just every now and then to do a little more of a casual kind of video. So to start off with the books that I am reading, I am currently in the middle of 3 books. The first of those being The Bookshop, the Draper and the Candlestick Maker, A History of the High Street by Annie Gray. This is one that I had picked up back in, I think, October, November from the library and just ended up getting busy with other books and ended up returning it. But I knew that I ultimately did want to come back to this book. I'm currently about halfway through it. I definitely think this is going to be a really useful resource for anybody who is wanting to get a sense of daily life, particularly town life, from circa 1500 up until the present day. I think this would be a very valuable resource for historical fiction authors. Is it necessarily like the most engaging thing to read from front to back? Not necessarily. Annie Gray does have a really upbeat, slightly humorous writing style, but I think this probably works a little bit better as a book to dip in and out of, rather than a cover-to-cover read. I am also reading The Ministry of Time by Kaliane Bradley. I am currently 64 pages into this one, so really only just getting going. And it's definitely an interesting one so far. So for those of you who don't know, this is kind of speculative fiction in which scientists have been able to create some sort of time travel loop which allows them to extract historical people at the point of their deaths and bring them back into the modern day. And in so doing, because they are so close to death, extracting them from their time period doesn't really have major ramifications on the current day. I'm not yet at a point where I know exactly why it is that they're doing this. At the moment, we are following one of these historical people who's been brought forward and what is called his bridge, somebody who is looking after him and teaching him about the modern day. We're just kind of getting to know the two of them, any friction points that are happening as a result of the culture clash. But yes, it's making me very intrigued to learn more. And then I am swapping between ebook and audio for the Geographer's Map to Romance by India Holton. I have currently read, I think, all of India Holton's romance books, and it's funny because I wouldn't say that India Holton is a favourite romance writer, but the description I always go to for her is that her plots, her writing is just very zany. I think her side characters are often quite Marmite because they are so ridiculous and like an exaggeration, a caricature of like Victorian Britishness. But I do always really enjoy the banter and the relationships between her leads, and so I'm just following on with this series. An interesting thing to note for my reading, particularly for April, is that I am in a bit of a patch off DNFing books. It's not like a deliberate thing that's happened, and I'll talk about it more in my April wrap-up, but I ended up DNFing 3 books in the span of April. I think I DNF'd 2 books in March, and I did set it as my New Year's resolution that I was going to DNF more. I wasn't going to push myself through books that I was actively disliking. But as somebody who doesn't regularly DNF, it does feel a little bit strange, and I'm trying to be very conscious of where I am DNFing genuinely, because there is no point in me continuing with a book. I've heard people talk before about how addictive it can be to DNF books, how you can sometimes feel like you're making more progress because you're just clearing books off of your TBR, and that you have to be careful with that. I don't want to be flippant with books, and I do feel like the books that I have DNF'd, I've given a pretty fair chance. I've read at least 100 or 200 pages before I have DNF'd them. But yeah, something to bear in mind. How far do you think it is reasonable to go with a book before you DNF it? I mean, there have also been a lot of books that I've read that I have pushed through the whole way through, and it's only been at the end that I thought, why did I do that to myself? I knew I wasn't liking it, and yet I wanted to see if anything changed, and it didn't. I think that's why I had instituted the resolution to allow myself to DNF, because I don't want to have so many instances of being like, why didn't I just give up on this? I have not been doing book hauls this year, mostly because I don't want to be in a constant mode of buying books. I want to be utilising ebooks and audiobooks and the library a lot more, rather than buying absolutely everything that I read. However, over the weekend I did pick up 3 books, which I feel pretty good about introducing to my TBR and into my library, and so I just thought I would use the bookish chat to show them to you, rather than trying to accumulate things for a book haul. So the first of these was Jane Austen's Bookshelf, The Women Writers Who Shaped a Legend by Rebecca Romney. It is a title that does what it says on the tin. We are going through the writers that inspired Jane Austen, from Frances Burney to Anne Radcliffe to Charlotte Lennox, Hester Lynch, Maria Edgeworth, among others. I actually picked this up just before I went to see the 20th anniversary re-release of Pride and Prejudice at the cinemas, and it just felt like this was a very fitting book. I've seen it in bookshops. I had been tempted and then I put it down, but I just kept on thinking about this. We know that I love a women's focus history, and we know that I love Jane Austen, so this feels like a very perfect read for me. I then just couldn't resist when I saw it. I did pick up the new Emily Henry Great Big Beautiful Life. I've seen people talking about how this is a bit of a mix of a classic Emily Henry romance, but crossed with The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo or The 13th Tale by Diane Zetterfeld. One of those books I liked a lot more than the other, but definitely a more intriguing premise of two authors who are commissioned to write a biography of this famous older woman, but the information that she is feeding to the two of them are very different. They're competing as to who is going to officially write the biography, but of course sparks will fly between these rivals. And then the last book I picked up was Babylonia by Costanza Casati. I read her retelling of Clytemnestra when it came out back in 2023, and I really enjoyed it. It's one of my favourite Greek myth retellings. And though I know very little about this, I knew that I wanted to read this, but I decided to wait for the paperback to come out, and how beautiful is this? And instead of ancient Greece, we are looking at ancient Mesopotamia, and it is a retelling of Semiramis, who I know pretty much next to nothing about, but I do trust Costanza Casati, and I'm very much looking forward to reading this. And then outside of books and reading, what have I been doing? I feel like I've been doing very little of interest to YouTube, and when I come to edit my Moments in April vlog, I think it's going to be very short and very boring compared to previous months where I have been going to the theatre, or I've been going back home, going to London, going to Haworth. I've really not done any of that. What I have done is a lot of singing. You'll probably know that I am in a musical theatre society and we are rehearsing for our production of Jesus Christ Superstar, which is in July. Outside of that, I've also been doing singing workshops. I've had a couple of singing lessons, solo singing lessons scattered in there, which I've been really enjoying. I haven't had regular singing lessons since before the pandemic, and I am always a firm advocate of no matter what level of singing you are, you should always have somebody training you, listening to your technique and making sure that it's healthy. And I just hadn't gotten round to finding somebody in Oxford, and it's great. Singing lessons always make me feel good. I've also been trying to watch more new to me films and shows. As part of getting my new iPhone back in January, Apple had given me the offer of 3 months free of Apple TV, so if you have any recommendations of things to watch on Apple TV, please let me know. I have finally watched Lessons in Chemistry, and I'm currently going through Ted Lasso just because I'd heard so many people say how great it was, and I was thinking to myself, I am not going to be swayed by this TV show about football. Honestly, there are very few things I care less about than football, and yeah, it is really swaying me. But yeah, if you have any recommendations for things that are either feel good or historical that are available on Apple TV, do let me know. I also accidentally have a month-long subscription to Paramount Plus, so once again, recommendations of things to watch on there, because after this month I am going to cancel it. But yeah, I'm generally really bad at watching new films and new TV, and I have a list that is like miles long of things that I want to watch and I never get around to doing them. So the fact that I have been making good progress so far this year is very unusual, and I would like to keep it up. And so we are coming to the end of the check-in, but the last thing to do is to go through my women's quotes jar. Inspirational women's quotes. This was gifted to me by my best friend for my birthday last year, and as you see, I've still not made it through all of these because my goal is to pick out one at the end of every one of these bookish chats, and I've not done enough of them. So let's see who we get today. The purple scroll. And this is one of my favourite ones. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent by Eleanor Roosevelt. And you can probably guess where I first heard this quote. It was indeed Princess Diaries. But there is a quote to take you through your day. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Do let me know if you've read any of the books or watched any of the films and TV that I've spoken about today. Let me know how your week has been getting on. I would love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.